and this is about, say, what's happening, why the chaos is happening, and the purity wave and COVID. Okay, so again, it all blends in. I don't want to go too extreme because again, it's been a long session already, and you can only handle so much. And time and space. Okay, so say, and I just want to have to say reference how time and space works because it's a little different than say what quantum physicists look at quantum or how time and space works and all that. So it's different than say Einstein's theories because even Einstein's theories, again, fantastic, but there's even he was concerned about say some of the misconceptions about it. And also, there's a lot of holes in the way, say, time and space works. Because now, and again, if you don't understand it, it's totally okay. But you'll probably understand it or feel it later on. Okay, so I'm just kind of setting you the stage. So in today's consciousness, or the way we feel, like time and space is a fabric, so it's like two-dimensional, and then like mass, right, creates a mass creates a gravitational pull, right? It's so if you have like imagine, like a trampoline, and then you put a heavy bowling ball right in the middle, right, and it creates an indentation, and then that's how gravity works. But it doesn't really work that way. It's very different. Okay, although it's true, it's more three-dimensional. So I'll explain that in this drawing. So in XI, and again, it would like clarify, I know, because it does push the boundaries of, say, quantum physics, but it would be proven because a lot of them, I don't want to get into that, but if people actually analyze it, this is just the way basically Einstein, he saw things, and then the mathematical formulas came after that. It wasn't mathematical formulas and then whatever, right? Basically, envision this the new consciousness or the new idea on how, say, time, space work, gravity works, and all that he came through. It was more visions, and then again, mathematical formulas that to back up. So again, we're looking for somebody to create the mathematical formulas on what this is, and this would fill in some of the gaps on, say, some of the issues of the current, say, model of time and space. Or quantum physics. So in XI, time and space is a molecule. Okay, so it's not distance. It's not a measurement. Okay, like speed, and depth, right, or length, or anything like that. Time and space is a molecule. So think of it this way. Say that you live in a world, okay? It's a one-to-one scale. So basically, what that means is that it's a real life scale, right? One-to-one. So you're living this world, right? It's got flowers, it's got oceans, it's got whatever, and it's a one-to-one scale. So and then like 1 hour equals 1 hour on that one-to-one scale. But then what happens is that time, so you're living in, say, you're living in a bubble of time, right? You're living in this dome, or again, a molecule of time. Okay, so and we'll just pretend it's like one big ass molecule, but it's not. It's very tiny, or micron level. Okay, so say with that we compress that one-to-one scale. So now it's like 50-to-1. So basically everything is shrunken down into a smaller version of itself. So in that reality, you wouldn't understand that it got shrunken down. You would just go, as things as normal. So that makes sense too. However, that say, you've got, a large, say a ruler, right? Or a clock, right? For example, it still would look like it, an hour went by, or it still looked like, a foot right? A foot went by. But if it got shrunk, it would still have the same scale, but very different measurement if you looked at it from the outside. So if you stepped out of time and space, it would be very different. Okay? So say you went down to 1/100th, right? So again, smaller and smaller molecules. So what that means is that now, it's say 100 times smaller or condensed. So it's the same. So say your body at, a bigger, say, a life size version, 5'10", now it's condensed to, a little miniature you. But what that means is that all those things about you just condensed. So it's got more substance in a very small piece. Although you might not experience anything different because you wouldn't realize because you're in, say, that hologram, right? So hopefully that makes sense to you. So and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Okay. So this world basically is here, it's life size, and then it shrinks and nothing changes. Time still works the same. Your bus schedule works the same. The way you go to dinner, whatever it is, it's all the same. It's just a miniature version of this reality. Simple as that. So the reason why that's important is because as we get closer and closer to, say, something that has like mass, like the Earth, it's got a lot of mass. So say that let's see. So say that at, say, the surface of Earth, which is like here, for example, okay, and in this scenario, the Earth is round, it's not flat, it's a sphere. Okay? Anyway, I don't know why I put that in there, but say at this level, your molecule of time and space is, say, like this. And again, this is just a representation. It's actually like, I don't know, like hexagonal or more than that, like, I don't know, 16, 17 different facets, kind of like a honeycomb, right? If you've seen that, it fits really well. So it can expand and contract. Yeah, you can expand and contract. So again, this is your model of your world. It's at 1-to-1 scale. So, okay. So this is this has depth, by the way, and we won't draw it. We'll draw the first one. Again, this is the model of the world. Okay, everything that happens, space-time, the way time works, an hour equals an hour here. Okay, so as you get closer and closer, and this is, say, the center of the Earth, the time molecule gets more and more compressed. That's why it's heavy, right? That's why you would get heavier. That's why if you go down, like in the ocean, right, like it's like a couple hundred feet, right, you would implode. And that's why they have this diving suit, right? That's really heavily clad. And you might think, well, it's because of the weight of the water, and that's part of it. But even if you went down into a mine that deep over time, you would have, say, physical issues of, again, things where your cells like crushing in on themselves. So those miners would have illnesses pattern, again, on, say, symptoms of getting crushed or feeling crushed, or the cellular structure getting crushed. That's why. So as you get closer and closer to something of mass, basically this 1-to-1 scale gets really, say, compact. Okay, but the thing is, like I said before, this, you have like a foot, a ruler, 12 inches. It's still the same here. Like I said, it's just a miniaturized scale, so everything gets condensed. Okay, so again, a lot of condensed, a lot of, say, concentration. It's heavily concentrated here. That's why at the center it's really heavy, it's really dense, it's really solid. But as we go here, the density isn't, say, as heavy, right? So we can move around and so on like that. So this is again this level. So, but what happens is that, and it's been proven, by the way, it's not just, say, theory. So say that time moves faster at the top of the building compared to where you are at the ground level of a building, of a tall building, or top of the mountain. Okay, time um, or um, what is it? The atoms, the carbon, like carbon. There's a certain. Okay, we'll forget that because I forgot. But anyway, they they decay different rates between the bottom at the bottom of the mountain and then the top of the mountain. Okay, again, it's very infinitesimal, say changes, but again, it's the changes. So the reason why that's important is that as you say elevate yourself higher and higher, you can see that air gets less dense, right? So if you go from say zero elevation to say in Denver, where it's say I don't know 10,000 feet, 14,000 feet, right? Air gets thinner. The reason why that happens is because at those heights, time and space react differently. The time and space here, where it'd be this big, is, you know, it would be say twice the size. And I'm not going to draw it because I need to draw something else here. So again, it expands, and then you go past, and then into space, and then it gets, you know, time and space gets bigger and bigger. And this is where I have issues with Elon Musk idea of inhabiting Mars. Okay, it won't work in the long run, and I'm not going to explain that here, but that's maybe a later topic. So why is this important, and why does that have to do with COVID? Here's the reason why, and what does the purity wave really mean? So, so I discussed like the earthly or the physical makeup, right, of how, say, it gets dispersed, okay? And then I discussed that, say, an hour of time here, and this is where like an hour of time here would go, say, pretty slow, okay? But an hour of time here would go faster for you, okay? Although it's still the same hour of time, because again, it takes up more space. You could move, you know, longer distances, so to speak, in the same hour. If that makes sense to you, because again, the measurements are the same, but if you stepped away from, say, the controls of time and space, you would, say, measure it at a different rate, okay? The closest thing I could say, give you an example, is that a wheel. Yeah, a wheel, for example. You know, it goes around, right? Say one cycle, but the wheel or the axle or a spot close to the center would go slower around. Where, say, the wheel, the outside of the tire or the wheel would be faster, although it would take the same amount of time to take one revolution, right? Same thing here with time and space. So again, what's going on? So let's talk about higher frequencies, because consciousness works the same way, or say operating system. So a consciousness is literally an operating system. Because most people, even if you talk to, I don't know, the latest, greatest quantum physicists, it's like they don't understand what consciousness is. I'll just explain it here. Consciousness is literally an operating system on how time and space works in this reality. It's literally that simple. It's got nothing to do with anything else. It's not something woo-woo or anything. It's just the global settings on how time and space and how this environment works, like electromagnetics, gravitation, or gravity, gravitational pull, your body systems, all those things are, say, in the operating system, okay? And I don't want to get too far into that because that's just another avenue that could take, say, weeks. So there's layers of consciousness that happen. Okay, just like, you know, density in air, right? The elevation, right? The higher you go, the less dense the air is. So it's the less dense the consciousness is, or the less dense time and space works. Okay, so say the next layer is here. The next layer, you know, of consciousness is here, and again, the next layer of consciousness is here. The next layer of consciousness is here. So it doesn't mean that this is a bigger consciousness. It doesn't mean that, again, if you compressed or brought this consciousness here, for example, it would be the same measurement. If you brought it into, say, this density, right? the heaviness of this reality closer to Earth, right? It would just basically take the same, say, space. An hour would be still an hour here, but again, it'd be a slower level. Okay, and this explains a lot of things that many of you might go through as you say elevate yourself into the higher levels of consciousness. Okay, including your body structure, including how you render your body or the makeup of your body. Many of you, especially with human reset, this is what you're going through, especially with say this new technology from this my friends or my counsel, a lot of new technologies that we discussed. So what does this have to do, or the purity wave that happens? Well, over time, so when a wave comes through, basically what it's saying is that this operating system, okay, that we exist in, and this has happened many times before. It's not anything new. Time and time again, say consciousness or the way this earth renders itself gets more and more efficient. Okay, so just to explain one more time, and then we'll go through the process because it needs a lot of setup. Again, for new people. So say, for example, the cell phone, right, or any invention, it's clunky at first, right? Prototypes are clunky and so on. And as it gets better and better, we'll look at the cell phone. Fantastic and amazing things that we can do. It's really powerful, but it's very compact, right? Same thing with time and space. It happens to be, say, it needs to be more efficient, right? More and more efficient. We can do a lot more things. So in this reality, the density or the distortions have to be, say, extreme. So there's extreme darkness and extreme light in this reality. Okay. The reason for that is because you need extremes to really understand or really define who you are. Okay. So just to give you an example of that, when you're first learning to skate or, try to stand up, like when you're walking, right? Somebody has to hold you. You need extreme measures to say walk, right? You need somebody to hold you. You need a table or whatever to hold you. But as you get, say, better and better at it, right? You need less, say, support systems, support mechanisms, right? So you're not needed, and eventually you get to walk on your own. So just remember that, okay? So in this consciousness, humanity is, again, it's a new consciousness. It's starting to understand how this level of density works. Okay? So, and again, we need to understand that. And as we do, we need, say, less and less clay to define us, right? Or less and less structures to define. So what's happening as you go to the next level of consciousness, and many of you will experience that, okay, is that so I'll give you a real life example of people who go through, XI and as they elevate, okay, especially into the high performance consciousness, okay, which is way above all this, but I'll just give you an example. So at these lower levels, since there's a lot of distortions, there's a lot of possibilities for you to get messed up, okay, there's a lot of exceptions to the rule because again, you would have all those, say, possible variables for you to get messed up on, right? So say you, again, say a lot of distortions, a lot of abuse patterns, a lot of lack patterns, and all that exist in this lower level of consciousness, okay? So you go to the next level of consciousness, and many of you experience this. You go to this next level of consciousness, the abuse patterns that you get, say, associated to or attracted to, they stop, right? You can't even think of, say, abusing yourself that way or, magnetizing abuse that way. Because in this consciousness, there's less, say, darkness, but there's less light as well, if that makes sense to you. And that's kind of going off track, so we need to get back. So the higher you go, again, high performance consciousness, the more and more and more you realize that you can't, say, run abusive patterns. You can't even go back into your memory and think about those abusive patterns because they're grayed out for you, or they're not as, say, challenging for you, or even you just go, yeah, I was abused, but there's no connection. Because these higher levels of consciousness, again, that's why I call it high performance, is because, and that's why I call it high performance, because, you need to be at a good level where you don't need support. You know how to say be in that say environment without with the least amount of support for you to create your reality. Okay, so just, and again, I'm throwing a lot of stuff, but I think most of you are getting it. Some of you just watch this over again. Okay, so again, so what's happening in society is that the consciousness wave or the purity wave that's coming through, basically, it's this next wave of consciousness. This is the next wave of consciousness that's washing through. Okay, so what that means is that Earth, and this is like, this is again, this is Earth. This this version of this reality here gets deleted. So this version, just like, you know, your Windows 3.0, that gets deleted. This version does not get supported in this consciousness. So you cannot run some of the old, say, programs that used to operate in this, like severe abuse patterns and all that. What used to exist in here doesn't exist into this new consciousness. So that's how you really say raise the bar of humanity. That's how you you know, eliminate, you know, child abuse and all the distortions, control systems, all those mechanisms. You have to raise the consciousness, because, and this goes back to, it's like, well, why did COVID happen? Because in this darkness, or in this reality here, all the possibilities of darkness and abuse and control systems exist. Okay, it's there to exist for you to understand, because this reality is about, say, separation. So, or duality, which isn't really duality, but again, that's some other conversation. So you need to know, say, light to in order to feel dark, heat, cold, you know, good, bad, and that's not a right. There's always opposites. Again, there has to be extreme opposites here for you to understand where you are in reference to time and space. At this new consciousness, those extreme opposites aren't there. So severe, say, and some of you go, well, I want to be really, really good. Being really, really good doesn't mean you walk away from the dark into the light. Okay, that just destroys you. Because both sides, say you go really brilliant, you just get fucked up, and then you die instantly. Okay, and again, many individuals who are brilliant individuals, and then they find them dead, right? Not by suicide, they just find them dead. That's what happens, because they went too extreme. The dark side, by the way, and again, another topic, another lecture, the dark side, by the way, since it needs you, it needs to consume you. So remember what I said, it needs to consume you, okay? It needs to consume you. This is where you get addicted. This is where you get used. This is where you get abused, but you don't die. Because if you die, you're not worth anything. So that's why, again, so you're a food source for the dark side, right? It needs another source to, say, connect to it and use it to survive, okay? Because it is of physical nature. It is of time-bound nature. This brilliance just evaporates you because it's of a timeless nature. And since it's a timeless nature, it doesn't need anything to exist. So it doesn't need you to exist. That's why, say, an ounce of light is equal to, say, a ton of darkness. Okay, that's why. So as you go to this next level, right, you eliminate a lot of the darkness and a lot of the brilliance. Okay, so again, you want to stay centered, or, you know, stable without, say, the crutches, so to speak. Okay, so you go to this next level. Yeah, so you go to this next level. So what happens is this purity wave comes through. Oh, what else was there? So again, at this level, control systems, control mechanisms, people find ways to control people, right? Because all those possibilities are available. You know, viruses. Let's do vaccines. Let's kill off people. Let's destroy people. Let's have wars and all that. The reason why those exist is because, again, this consciousness allows it to exist, and then people aren't awakened enough to go, you know what? That's not really benefiting us. That's not really, say, escalating us to the next level, because it's free will. right? It's not elevating us to the next level. So we shouldn't do that, right? We should elevate ourselves to like rise up to this consciousness, kind of like making steps, but then we don't learn. You know, we've had over 2,000 years, 2,020 years to be exact, you know, where that messenger came about and goes, hey, you know what? We're about to, you know, in about 2,020 years, we're going to get rid of this software version. It won't exist anymore. And then, you know, you need to like move up or upgrade. But then what do? Right? We wait to the last minute to say upgrade our software. And that's where the chaos again is happening, right? Something had to happen to say, wake up humanity to go, hey, this new consciousness is coming down.